Okay, on to playing Skirmish. Now, for me to start this game, or for me to play this game, I'm going to have to do some kind of tricky stuff. So the Brits are going to use the cup. The Americans aren't, but I don't need to roll for the Americans yet. The Americans don't need to know what they're doing until they know which unit the Brits are playing. Now, the Brits' goal is to stamp out as many of these little things as they can as quickly as possible, thereby reducing the strength. Without a lot of movement, I'm not going to be able to really hit anything, so I'm going to pick this unit up here. I'd kind of like to take this to force, what I'd love to do is be able to hit this, but that's not going to happen. So now that I've chosen that unit, that creates kind of a, well, the Americans kind of want to make sure they don't get caught in a major battle. I roll a couple of dice, I get a couple of ones. I can't get far enough away to completely deny a major battle. So here's the question. Do I let the Brits perhaps land on me? There are as many, there's as many 2s as there are 3s on this die. It's mainly 1s. I don't know. What I'm going to do instead start gathering stuff, but I don't know what. I'll pull this there and this there. Alright, now we reveal what the Brits had. They had a 1. They're going to march forward. Now, one weird thing with this, cities don't matter, it's just the armies. We draw a skirmish card because we're engaged in a skirmish battle. No winner, each move away 1 space. And we're pushed back. That's it. That's how the game kind of flows. Play a little bit off camera, come back maybe when something interesting happens. Well, nothing interesting happened, but we had a few moves. We're seeing the American player consolidating his forces, but it's difficult for the British to even catch anything, and especially when they're rolling 0. But last turn they should have moved this guy 1. This turn they got a 0 on him, didn't get to move him. I've done 3 total, so you're just beginning to see we got this forces kind of grouping together as the American player is trying to get enough force that he can actually fight a fair battle against the Brit. And a quick shift here, the Americans got out of the way luckily because the Brits had a big roll moving down from Montreal, and they managed to kind of consolidate here as well as getting Washington bigger. It's important to get Washington big because you lose him, you lose the game. So the Americans have mainly consolidated their forces with no losses, actually. And now the Brits use their movement, and the Americans could mostly ignore that, to sail against the fleet. In order to fight this off, we roll a die each. The red dice for the Brits. And you re-roll on ties. This is just a sink. You either win or you sink in this in a naval battle. Land battles don't work that way. They have a single round. But let's see. So the American Navy won. Means the British fleet is out of the game. And this is where something very unrealistic can happen. The Americans can actually take complete naval control. It doesn't mean much until the reinforcements come in. Alright, now we're in one of them interesting situations where the English rolled a 3. They picked this army. Now 3 allows them to either skirmish with Washington. It would have allowed them to hit this other army, which is what they wanted to do. Or either make a skirmish against one of these forces. This is a hard choice. Getting the pressure on Washington seems the most important. Let's do that. American victory, remove a British unit. Well, that's not too good. Because now, you can see by the size, they're about equal size. So even a major battle isn't necessarily an advantage for the Brits. Well, the Americans were able to pull away from the Brits. They activated here again and have a larger force. But the Brits skirmished them anyway. Remember what their goal is to kill this, but if they lose an army, they get reinforcements. So maybe if they can wear that down, they can bring some of their other armies into play. The skirmish card drawn was skirmish becomes a major battle. So now we fight an actual major battle here. Now the Americans, the white die, have a +1 to the die roll. Whoop, whoop. That's not good enough. They're taking 3 losses. So this is a British victory. Now remember, if the Americans won this, they could call for reinforcements. So this was kind of iffy for the Brits to do, I think. Okay, but now what happens? Basically, though, I think the Brits were losing the game, and they want to make sure that they take some chance while they can. That's my story. Okay, now, they both are repulsed. There's no specific statement of how you're moved away. I used to always do, it had to be in different directions, but I don't think that really is the case. Regardless of the outcome, at the end of the battle, the units remaining are moved apart 1 space. See, I feel like it was supposed to be like this, that you push the enemy that way. But obviously that couldn't always happen. So I don't know, you know, the attack came from this direction. That was always the impression we got from it. The rules don't specify it well enough. I'm not sure that there'd be any other... I don't know how to interpret it otherwise, though, because, you know, moving like this, what does that mean? Could the Americans push through? Who chooses first? None of that specified, so this was always the way we did it. Such as. And we have the Brits kind of pursuing Washington deep into western Pennsylvania. The idea here being, that's the game, man. That's what the Brits want. There's no reinforcements or anything for the Americans there. This is becoming a real danger point for the Americans just because of this. And now wily Washington was able to double back while the Brits seem to have camped out down here in western Pennsylvania. His goal is to get into the same space as another American unit, another American army, so that he can take troops from them. If you put 2 armies in the same space, they're allowed to merge, and then well, they're allowed to share troops, and then one of them has to back out of there, basically. Now we've got this kind of interesting condition. Washington's run up into New York. British picked this unit. I got a big die roll. If I run away from that unit, I'm running closer to this guy, but no big deal. It's this guy who can't catch me. Of course, he actually can get me into a skirmish, conceivably. And I'm going to keep pushing this unit forward to get my forces consolidated. The English got a 2. Which isn't quite enough, but they're sort of boxing him in, making it hard for him to actually escape and get to one of these other units. Well, the Brits managed to corner him at least into a skirmish situation. That doesn't mean American victory or move a British unit. Kind of painful, but couldn't just let him slide down south. And it looks like Washington slithered away. The Brits have one movement they can pull down. So they're going to have to start all over again because that Continental Army is going to get big. And, well, the English don't have... They have to be careful with that thing because that can get slaughtered too. Washington managed his rendezvous, and you can see he's got a heck of a big stack. The Brits ran back to New York, got reinforcements. They want to face him on at least even grounds. Okay, Washington's on the offensive here. He sees this little stack. He's going to go schwack it. This unit had to pull away from this larger one. And it doesn't want to take the odds. The British can go for kind of an attritional war if they have slightly better odds. But here, what do we got? 3 to 6. That's going to be +3 for the Americans. Or should we call them the Colonials? They win by 1. They defeat the British. That pushes them out. Americans just won a major victory. They're going to call for reinforcements. Now we see this exciting little game of sailing in, and we're going to try to get to either Yorktown or Philadelphia. First we set sail with the boat. 2. Now the Brits are allowed to set sail with one or more of their boats, really. 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They're kind of getting in the way there. That's successful. These troops land in Philadelphia. I was able to slip around without having to fight, and fighting would have been a chance of losing them all. This fleet's here. This fleet gets to return. I don't remember where it goes. Any harbor. I'll put it up here, give me a little bit more strength. Alright, well, we still have the British turn. I think I activated that guy. And he only gets to move one space. Now, in a sense, he'd kind of like to wipe out these forces instead of worrying about that. So I'm going to push forward. Alright. So after those reinforcements came the next turn. The Brits slammed down to attack them. Got a skirmish. The reinforcements actually had that army attached to them. Drew a skirmish, though, evenly matched. Both lose one unit. Not very good result. But it can be worse. Some more skirmishing went badly for Washington here. He lost a unit. And then over here the Americans got a chance to kind of run away after a skirmish. This British caught by surprise. American moves one or two spaces in any direction. That has to be in a single direction by how I read it. Again, the rules aren't very good in terms of nailing everything down, but the cards kind of have this implication to them. I'm sure people get in lots of arguments when they try playing this. I don't know. Okay, things really went badly for the English. Americans did a skirmish up here. Major disaster for the British. 2 British units killed. And Washington was able to launch into here. Now, this is before the British moved their piece. The battles are taken care of. This is a British army destroyed, though. So, they're going to call for their reinforcements. They kind of would like to get them into New York City, give themselves a little bit more force there. They get to open up by sailing their ship. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And they make it automatically. There's no chance for the Americans to intercept that. Nice big roll. And now we go on to the English action, which I believe, I don't remember. I believe was actually this command, which was a little larger before. It's not moving anywhere. It's in a skirmish position. We check again. British caught by surprise. American moves 1 or 2 spaces in any direction. There's nowhere I really want to move. I'll give myself some space from that unit. The Continentals are taking a little bit of hits as they are pushed into New York by this unit. Just from the skirmishing tape cards, which for the most part, like I said, I think they favor the Americans a little bit. Getting to this point in the game probably usually means the Americans are in pretty good shape. But here's the problem. They have less troops. Unless they can outwit, like bringing this big stack in to crush this, the Brits, they may be at a disadvantage here. Again, unless they're relying on the skirmish cards and the slight odds differential there. The Americans tried to cover their weakened unit with this big guy over here. However, they did it with a skirmish. British cavalry surprise attack. British moves the American 2 squares in any direction. They chose to push them away. And then they had a big enough move to be able to slam up and destroy that unit. Things are looking worse for the Continentals at this point. The rebels managed to clinch with this weaker unit. And you can see Washington's coming forward with the Continental Army. It was kind of stuck out of the way and no reason to spend efforts bringing it closer when it's the victory condition for the Brits. Let them chase it. But here I've got kind of this pinning action going on where I want to try to trap that unit. And I may need more than one unit. Anyway, here I was able to catch it. but there was a repulse because of the tide die roll, even with the +2 bonus that the US had. British got caught by a bad skirmish result. British lose 1 unit, then have a major battle. They were wiped out by that. Now they have 2 forces that are both smaller than the big American army. And that's a problem, because the bigger your army, the more that you can effectively, win battles, right? But between them, the Brits could put up a battle force that's the same size. Actually, I think this has gotten lost a space, too. No. Yeah, it's at 6, which is as big as they get. The Brits would like to be able to swing around and get near Washington, but their movement is so slow and so hindered, they can't really do that. And the other British army was destroyed. We're down to just this 1 army left. It looks really unlikely for anything to happen. I want to try to get in there, but I'm not going to have, the opportunity to slip by without this attacking me, I think. And another skirmish. These cards, again, really, really random. British unit got lost. This is kind of what the Brits have to rely on, is the skirmishing, in the hopes that they end up, winning battles in a row. But like I said, the deck's stacked against them and them, so they really shouldn't be in this position if they can help it. After a big battle in New York City, the Brits have been pushed back into Long Island, and pretty much either of the American units can probably crush them. And British skirmish, actually, they shoved themselves in here, had to fight 2 skirmishes, ended up finishing them off. That's the end of the game. You can see it didn't look like the Brits had much of a chance. And I think that overall, if there is a balance issue, it perhaps leans in favor of the Americans. I don't know, because I haven't played this enough, and I don't really think this is the kind of strategy, deep strategy game where you want to really even assess that too much. It's a fun kind of shits and giggles roll the dice and kind of watch this story unfold, but at a really, really light level. Very much in the Ameritrash type feel, although in a long before most of the games that are in that genre came about. This was kind of in this Milton Bradley putting out, hey, these kind of war-themed things work kind of well. And it's really not that much worse than some of the other lighter war games. It may feel it with the dice and all the cards and everything. But, most of them don't take a lot into account either. Anyway, I'll load this one up and come back with a review.